good movie. It was a good movie. Looking back at this movie, I think this may end up being the best live action movie Disney's done so far. Granted, I haven't seen Dumbo or The Jungle Book, but I will soon. Well, eventually. I think soon is a bit of a horrible promise. But I think that sort of is where I'm going to stand on it compared to all the others. Maleficent is a bit too off the subject matter. Cinderella, I think, plays around a bit too much with its material to the point where it raises more questions than answers. Um, Beauty and the Beast, which just I don't have the strength, and yeah, looking at Aladdin, I think this is sort of the right chord, and I think it's because looking at this movie, it feels a lot like it's just a bunch of people having fun, and I mean this in the nicest way possible when I say this looks like something someone did on YouTube for the most part. And that doesn't mean it like it's cheaply done, but I get the feeling this is more of a passion project than anything else because at times it does feel like everyone's like, we love the material so much that here we are just having fun our way. And I think it sort of comes to the fact that a lot of it feels very Broadway, the songs, or just how some of them move from one scene to the next. There's a couple of cuts, a couple of things that were removed from the movie, primarily just to give a better sense of realism. Iago is not as Gilbert Godfrey as we'd like. Abu is pretty much just a monkey. Carpet's a bit underplayed, to be sure. And Raj doesn't have his same skepticism that I liked about him. But in exchange for that, and also the change to the genie, which we'll get to in a moment, because of those cuts, it does really put a lot of focus on the characters. The movie sacrifices a lot of its comedy for its story, for its moment with its characters, namely Jasmine and Jafar, who I think get a lot more time to just sort of be themselves. And Aladdin, I think, it's weird, but if I look at the original Aladdin, I don't quite feel like it's his movie, despite how much I talked about it. It always felt like, the genie is the character. The genie becomes sort of more the movie than Aladdin. But here, you are a bit invested in Aladdin. You are a bit more invested in how he reacts to things, especially because he has more interactions with Jasmine and Jafar. Jafar himself, I think, is one of the better changes to this because he does feel like Littlefinger in a lot of ways. He's more like an angry Littlefinger. He feels the world owes him, and that, from where he's come from, everyone should be listening to him. And he's willing to do a lot to get there. And he's also sort of forms a bit more of a relationship with Aladdin. Not a really super strong one, but when they first meet, there's a sort of kindred spirit to them. And I like that. Jasmine, okay, so Naomi Scott, when she was talking about Jasmine, she will be strong and have fun, but also she'll get it wrong and be emotional. She's a multidimensional woman, and she does not have to just be one thing. So in this movie, you see her go on such a roller coaster as opposed to her one goal of being to fall in love or get married. And she also stated that Jasmine will try to find the courage to speak out for her people, and that Jasmine wants to know what goes on in her kingdom and reconcile the distance that has been created. And Aladdin gives her the courage to do that. This is a very strong statement that I don't think lives up to what the movie actually did. The movie does a lot of good credit with Aladdin and Jasmine, pretty much being that they meet up pretty early in the movie. There's no Aladdin does a thing, then Jasmine does a thing, which involves her running off and meeting Aladdin. No, they meet relatively early in the movie. Actually, I would think they meet well within the first 10 minutes of the movie, maybe even the first 5. Jasmine still comes off as a bit naive, because the same thing that happened with the apple in the original one happens here. And I'm sort of wondering why. She has this very great set that she wants to implement change to Agrabah. She wants to see what's going on. And here the logic is, instead of it being, the law, it will be that her father was legitimately trying to protect her from the outside world from something that happened with her mother that is sort of vague. We don't quite know what happened. She's not really... she never came off as emotional. She does sort of give some of the... She doesn't give a weaker performance, but she has some of the weirdest scenes that don't quite work with it. It feels like that instead of trying to flesh out a lot of these aspects of a character, they decide to use it for a musical number instead. And that can sort of hit or miss depending on the audience. That's a matter of taste. Aladdin is a bit more insecure in this one, and I like that because it does sort of lead to the eventual decision he makes with Genie, which leads to their falling out. Um, for the most part, that's it with him. I think Aladdin is at his best here in the beginning of the movie. The Sultan is not as happy-go-lucky. I like that Sultan a bit better, but I love the performance here. I really do because it's still not as they don't really enhance the performance, but I think he does pay the role a lot of homage because he's just a well-meaning guy. Coming up to the genie was the big mystery about this. When we saw Will Smith, the genie, we were like, "What? This looks like a horrible decision." And I'd always made it clear that this was an uphill battle because Robin Williams' genie is pure brilliance. It is pure brilliance, and it's even known that the character of the genie was created for Robin Williams. That doesn't happen a lot today with a lot of animated characters that are played by celebrities. They're like, this is a character, let's get a celebrity to voice them. The genie was created with Robin Williams specifically in mind, and Will Smith now has to step into the shoes, and he doesn't try to match that. You can't match Robin Williams. It would be unfair to him and to us for him to try that. So he does, I think, as good a job as he can. He does a great job of making the role his own in a lot of places, but there are three scenes that I feel ultimately he falls definitely behind Robin Williams in. And it's not the comedy. That was already a given. It's the emotional scenes, the personal scenes where the genie feels vulnerable. And those three scenes are, and this is just from these moments are they're in both versions of Aladdin. There's the talk about freedom. There is Aladdin revealing that he can't wish for his freedom, and then the final one, which is wishing for the genie's freedom. When the animated genie gives that performance, there's a lot of vulnerability, there's a lot of hope and optimism, and exactly how important these things are to him. In this version, Will Smith's character feels more like he's more interested in being the mentor than he is to being free. And that is one of those take it or leave it things. There was one thing that definitely set this movie apart from others is it's not funny. Like, there's some legitimate attempts at jokes, and they just sort of don't land. Yeah, I think that is the biggest thing against this movie. It's not really funny. It's just sort of, you might chuckle from time to time. But again, what I love about this movie is the heart. This feels more like a bunch of people who really love this movie came out and said, let's do this scene. And you remember that scene from Aladdin when they do the da 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 da, the Prince Ali and the da da da, and they go, well, let's try something like that. This does feel like a fan project, and I mean that in the nicest way possible. Not about how the production value looks, because it looks brilliant, but just sort of the energy comes off. It feels more like these are people that love this movie more than they wanted to say, well, let's make some money with this movie, which is something that I've always critiqued about live action movies live action adaptations of Disney movies, because first and foremost, they feel like cash grabs. They do. And we saw with Maleficent, we went way over the edge with sort of taking away what I felt would have been a better chance to expand that whole movie. Instead, it becomes about Maleficent, and what's becoming an overdone thing is deconstructing a character, namely deconstructing villains. The villain can no longer be the bad guy. Here, Jafar is definitely the bad guy. Even if he gives a sob story, you feel like you're still a terrible person. Let's make no mistake. And then you like some Beauty and the Beast, which is just kind of... It feels like we were trying to rewrite the entire character to suit an idea of how we think that character should be. I think those are the two extremes. Aladdin here meets in that middle, which is, wouldn't it be really cool if we got a bunch of actors to do this really great film? And I love that. And I might do something more in depth with Disney live action movies, but let me sum it up like this. It is very low hanging fruit of Disney to pick all their successful properties to adapt to live action. And you'll hear many Disney fans say this. They want to see Atlantis Lost Empire, they want to see Treasure Planet, I want to see the Black Cauldron. Like I said in my Black Cauldron review, that could be Disney's Lord of the Rings. And they have a superhero universe. They do, but they don't have a Lord of the Rings universe. They don't have a magical universe. They don't. And it's haunting them. I promise you it's haunting them at night. All they gotta do is adapt the Black Cauldron. Actually, the Prydain Chronicles. Don't adapt the Black Cauldron. Well, with that in mind, let's bring this video to a close here. If you're new to the Buck Think Tank, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. What did you think about Aladdin? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you like some performances? I personally think Madame Masood and Naomi Scott were great additions, and Marwan Kenzari, I think, did a great job as Jafar, and Nazmin Pedrat as Dahlia is adorable. Feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. Check out some other videos, and I will catch you all later. This is the Buck Think Tank signing out. Thanks for watching, and as always, may your fandom serve you well.